to set up a slideshow. Let's scroll down. Click Add Section. Scroll down again until you see Slideshow. Let's click Load More. All right, there are 3 different options for Slideshow. Let's click the default Slideshow, or just Slideshow. And let's click Select. Inside of Slideshow, there are a few settings we should look at. So we have a section layout where we can, determine how we want this to look on all devices, or mobile or desktop. We have a section layout where we can choose it if we want it to be global default, boxed, full width, or full width background, or full width, right? So we have some options. If we change the section layout, for example, like if I click desktop only, this will say that, hey, this is something that you will only see on desktop. Or if we click mobile only, this is only something we will be able to see on mobile. See, if I click mobile only, it disappears. Or I could say all devices. So no matter if you're on mobile or desktop, this could fit, right? Or that this will be shown. For the section layout, we can choose between global default, boxed, you see, it changed its positioning, full width background, right? It shows full width, or just full width. Okay, I'll put it back to global default. We could also choose to remove the section's bottom margin, the space underneath it. So if I click this, see, it collapses that extra space. So uncheck that. We can also choose to change the height. So I can increase it. I'll increase how big it is, or I could decrease it. See, and it'll change the sizing of it. So it's something really useful, like especially when you start adding things in, which we'll get to in a minute. We could also change the text color for this. So I can change this to white. See, and it changes all the text. Turn that to none, because we'll mess around with that when we get into the section itself. And we could also set autoplay slides. This is important. So once you add an image in, or a video, which we'll get to in a moment, but I want to get through these like really quick general settings. If you add an image in, you could add multiple images in as well, or multiple videos in. You could choose that it'll auto switch slides itself. Or if you uncheck it, it'll set that you have to manually add slides in. So I'll show you really quickly. So there's a default in, we haven't added anything into it. But if I just add in another image slide, because this first one is an image slide, and I don't even have to put anything in it. But if I have autoplay slides not on, I have to actually click it. Right? But if I click autoplay slides, after a certain amount of time, it'll switch. So this is something you can add, or you can check or uncheck based on how you want it. And that's something cool that's inside of Booster Theme. So we also have content animation, where we can determine how we want the content to appear. We can fade them in. We could slide and fade in. We can slide from the top. We can slide from the bottom. We can slide from the left. We can slide from the right. We can grow. We can rotate and grow. And we have this other option, shake. It adds a little shake in. So Booster Theme has given you so many options in here to be able to customize how you want your slides to appear. Like the shake is really cool. But you can choose any of these content animation options and, make it work for your section. You can also even check this where the animations will take place on all elements at once. So if it says if left unchecked, elements will start animating with a slight delay in between. Or if you have this checked, it animates everything at once. There won't be a delay. So you can just click and choose and mess around as you want, and it's really, really cool. Booster theme gives you so much flexibility. So this is our slideshow section. So in here, we see that at the very top, we have one content already added. But if we have none, or if we want to add a content, we would click Add Content. And it gives us an option to add an image slide or a video slide. This content, or this default content that we have here, is an image slide. So I'll click it. And boom, I'm looking at my image slide. So we have some settings, right? We have our content alignment that could move the content inside of the slideshow to the center, which it is right now, right? It's in the center right now. Or we can move it to the left, or we can move it even to the right. So we can use content alignment to move the content inside of our slide, right? So I'll go into center. Boom, and it's centered again. We could also choose if we want it to be in the middle, in the top, or the bottom. So I'll go with top. So it gets moved up to the top of the section. Or I could even go to the bottom, and I'll move to the bottom of the section. Cool, so you could play with these content alignment options, left or right or top or bottom, as needed to kind of get it to fit where you want it to be for your specific situation. I'll move it to the middle. And if I want to, add some spacing, I could add some padding. So I could either decrease it, or I'll try increasing it first. Boom, and it adds some padding. But we can't see anything currently because we don't have an image in. So let's add an image. Let me choose this one right here. Boom, and we see that it's shown right here. And then I could click select. And that looks pretty great. It looks like a great fit. So we can now use padding to move the space right within the slide. We could also choose to change the space between content. So we can move this, right? And we see that the different items in the content get spaced out. We can bring it all the way like pretty low, and see it just adds a little bit of spacing. So see, we can definitely move our space with this setting for space between content. We can also choose to add a background color if we don't want a background image. So I'll remove this image and I'll add a color. Let's go with like a blue. See, and I'll add blue inside of this. But if we have an image, I'll choose one really quickly, like this one in the desert. You see how the image already gets rid of that background color? So you can't have a background color and an image at the same time. It's either an image or a background color. So I'll take this image out so we can see the background color again. But we can definitely play around with it as need be and see what works best. So I'm going to scroll down. And I could also change the background image position. If I have an image, I can change the positioning. But of course, we can't see it because we just have a color and no image. So I'll just choose an image. Let's choose this image. Let's choose one where we could see the person on screen. So I'll go with that one, right, where I could see her in the middle. And see, the background image has preference over the background color. So I'm going to change the image position from the middle to the top, right? And we see a difference. We see that she's moved, right? So the background image position moves. Or I can change it to the bottom. See? It's moving the positioning of the image. So generally, for most cases, you want your image to fit normally, right? The way that it should. Sometimes you want it to be a little bit different so you can play with the top or the bottom. But I think for a lot of cases, middle would be a good fit. See? Because it aligns the photo in the middle. You can see it the way, you can see it the same way that it's positioned in the original image. So see, this is the original image, and it gets zoomed in a bit, but everything is still positioned about the same. Right? So If you want it to look that way, go with middle. If you want it to be a little bit different, you could play with those different options. We have overlay. What overlay allows us to do is it allows us to add an overlay. So it allows us to add a darker look over an image, right? Or even a color. So I will bring this all the way so you can see what it looks like. Boom, it makes the whole section black. But why? Because we have an overlay color. So this overlay color is set to black. If it was set to red, it would be fully red because we went 100%. But if I make this 50, for example, let's say 50, you see how the image is being seen behind it, but we're still seeing that red? But it's like a 50%, you can see the image, 50% you can't. That's what the overlay opacity allows us to do. 9 out of 10 times, you wouldn't really just use any color, but you can mess around with it as it works best for your situation. Maybe you're doing a strawberry company and you want your pictures to have a red tint. I mean, it's all about what works best for you. But for a lot of cases, if you use black, it tends to look better. Or if you use white, it has a certain look. It seems it works in most situations. But choose what works best for you. I'll leave this one for black for now. And you could move this around to whatever fits best. Boom. All right, so we can go down to content as well. So we have some default content that says this is your slides heading, right? So we can change that heading. So we can change it from this is your slides heading to I am your slide heading text. See? And it changes here as well. Once we change it here, it affects here. And we can change the heading color from, let's say, black text to white text. See? And it changes it to white. Or whatever color you want, right? So it allows us to change the heading color, right? The text color for our heading by clicking in here, choosing whatever color you need. We can also change the content text, which is this smaller text under here. So you can change it from enjoy the flexibility to, be boldened, right? It's kind of hard to see because it's set for black right now, or the default's black. So I'll change this to white so we can see it. Cool. So you see this is bold. We can choose to italicize it, right, with bold or without bold. We can choose to add a link to it, right? So if we click that link icon, I'll go back to it. If we click this link icon and insert a link, we can set where, if we want the link to be on the entire text, if we want it to be on only one word in the text by what we have here. And then we could either paste in a link from an area in our site, like a page, one of the different pages. So when you click it, it'll route the user to that specific page. Or, we can use a blog post that we can link, or we can even do a website. So we can do www.youtube, for example, and then we could put that in here. And then when a user clicks on this, it'll send them to whatever link we have here. And remember, it says that HTTP with the colon and the 2 backward slashes is required for external links. So you'd write it out HTTPS colon backward slash, and then you'd put what your website is. For this example, I'm using YouTube, but you can use what works for your situation. But make sure that this is added. You could also just copy that from here, right? And then paste it in to make it easier. But remember, if you just want to link to something already on your site, right, or your store, you can click this, choose one of these options that work best, and it'll basically show you anything that's in your store and fit it in there. You can also choose if you want to open this link in a new window. Like, so if a user clicks this, will it change the page that they're on, or will it just open this link in a new tab? You can click this to activate it, right? So if you have a specific link, like newsletter, for example, and then I click this, and I'll say insert, I set it for the whole text. So if I click this, you see it'll lead me to the newsletter section of my site. But if I click it, it takes me to this because I'm in development mode. But let me go back. And I got to route back to where that is. So let me go into there. And go into here. And slide down. But if I were to, let's say, click this, it would take me to a different tab. But if I was in the official site, if I wasn't in this developer mode. We have our primary button, which is our first button. We actually have it marked primary here as a default. And we also below it have a secondary button, right? Same settings in both. We can choose to change the text. So I could say that I am button number 1. And then that would take that place, like it would insert that text into the button. I can choose to add a link, very similar to how we added a link up here. We could click, right? And then choose what area in the site we want to link to, or if it's an external link, we can add that in, https://www.youtube.com or wherever we want to go. And it'll route us to that area. We got to click that for it to take us there, but I will take this out. But very commonly, you wouldn't want to lead somebody to another site. Most times, like 90% of the time, you want to link to something inside your store. So you would click it, choose one of these options, it'll link us to that area in our store. All right, and then we can change the button style from primary button to secondary button style, right? So you can change those options. And then we could also change the button type. So we can change it from default or filled, right, to ghost or underlined. So if we come near it, it shows like that. Or text, which is just text. But if we come over it, it shows the button as we hover, which is really cool. So that is pretty much all the settings. Remember, the primary button is the same as the secondary button. So that's pretty much all the settings we have for default. So now what happens if we want to be able to add a video? Well, we can go back and we can go to add content, click it, and click on video slide. When you go to video slide, almost all the settings are the same as an image slide. And as you can tell, we also are able to switch between different slides because if I go back and look, you see now there's 2 slide options. So you can add as many slides as you want, and as you add multiple slides, it allows you to be able to switch through them. So that's a really cool feature. So we're going to go back into video slide. And if we look, we still have our content alignment left and right, or left to right, and content alignment top to bottom. It's all there. All this is the same. The only difference I could see off the top, right, is that we have video URL. Because we're in a video slide, right, we have the option to be able to put a video in here. In order to be able to put a video in here, we have to actually come out of our booster theme that we added into our Shopify store, right? So we come out of booster theme to our Shopify store, and we can add in the video file there, right? Then I'll be able to show in this section. Now I'll go with adaptive slideshow. Let's try the adaptive slideshow. I'll click it, and I'll click select. All right, and first off, we don't see anything popping up. So, works the same way. Once I click add image slide, very similar to add content, it lets us add an image slide. So that tells us that when we're doing this, it will allow us to add an image slide and nothing else. So I'll delete this image slide that we just previously made. I'll click this first one that comes with it, right, which is the image slide. And then I'll just add in a slide for us to play with. So I will go with, let's say, this slide. As soon as we click it, you see how it adds in? So before, it didn't show anything, but as soon as we added an image, and I press select, it shows here. One big difference between the default slideshow and the adaptive slideshow is that it takes the full size of the image. All the pixels, right, of the image gets carried over. It doesn't try to shrink it like how it did with the default slide. It shows the full image, right? The full size. So this is something that's useful if you want to be able to add a full image into your store or into your slideshow section inside of your store. Adaptive slideshow, really useful to be able to do that. All the settings are the same. You see we have our content alignment to move left or right or to move up or down. We have our padding, which we can move less or more, right? Which is your spacing for how do you want it to be positioned. You can also move your space between the content items. That works exactly the same way. Color's the same. We have an option to add a mobile slide image in here as well. If we click select image, we can add a mobile image in, but that's optional. So we also can change the position for the background image, right? Same way as in the default. And we could then also add in a slide URL. So if somebody clicks on this image anywhere, it will carry them over, right, to that area. So if I add a page, let's do products. And I'll try the bodybuilding pants. If I just go over it, you see how the whole image becomes clickable? See? And at the very bottom left, you'll see that it's saying products bodybuilding pants, meaning that it will, once you click it, it'll lead you to the bodybuilding pants. So it's a really cool thing that allows your whole image to be clickable. So if somebody just swipes by, they're like, oh, I can click this, and it'll take them to that specific area. We could, everything is exactly the same as the default. We can change the primary button, we can change the secondary button, we can change the colors. Everything is the same. Main difference is that once you import an image, it imports the full pixel size of that image in. So that's adaptive slideshow. And then we'll click on responsive slideshow, our last option. So I'll click responsive slideshow, and I'll click select. The responsive slideshow is, like its name says, it's responsive. Responsive is important because it allows us to set a certain image that is usable for mobile and also for the site, right? So we can put an image in that works for both situations. So we can add an image slide in, right? So you see, that's our one option. If I click it, I'll add an image slide in. I could remove an image slide. And here, if I go to content, it already comes pre-built with already an image slide added, right? So that's something to know. It adds image slides in. So everything's the same. Content alignment's the same. Padding, space between content, all is the same. Background color, we can add one if we want. I'll do one really quickly, a red. Works all the same. I'll say none because we don't need one. But if I go to slide image, I have an option to, let me just choose this image, add an image in. And I'll press select. With a responsive image, which we can see right off the bat, is when we added an image in, the image wasn't mega size. It wasn't the full pixel size of that image. It fits it into this section. So a responsive slideshow doesn't show the full size of the image. So like if you don't want a massive sized slideshow, like this one at the very top of the page, like this one right here, which is a really big size slideshow, right? And you just want your images to fit, inside of a specific space, then responsive slideshow is a good fit. And it also gives us this option to add in a mobile slide. So now let's find something that looks different. So I'll choose, let's say, this one. And I'll click select. We see that when we add in a mobile option, we can't see anything. All we can see is the web or desktop version. So let's go up here to change it. So we'll go from desktop, right, the web version, to mobile. And now if I scroll down, is it different? It is different. So we can see that on desktop we have this version, and on mobile we have this version, which is really cool. So if you want to be able to show one photo for desktop, but you want to show a complete different photo for mobile, you have that option. But what if you want to show the same image for both? Well, we can change here, right, the mobile slide, and we could change it to match the other image, right, the one that's on desktop, and select. And as we can see, it has already changed here, which is really cool. So it allows us to be able to add an image, not just for desktop alone, but for desktop and for mobile. So let me switch this back to desktop. So we could add a URL in, we could add a heading, content, we can add different stylings for our primary buttons or change the text, all that. So this is the last part of Slideshow. Thank you for watching this video. Please refer to our Help Center for more information.